My name is Abidemi Taiwo. One of my favorite things or favorite parts of my role as a presenter and an executive producer of On the Couch with Abby is the privilege that I get to meet with real life influencers. My guest today is one of the most inspiring and influential businesswomen in Africa. My guest today is a tech executive and an author. She's the head of sales at one of the tech giants, Meta, formerly known as Facebook. It is the beautiful, kind, warm, energetic Jane Egherton Idehen. Welcome, Jane. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm good. I'm listening to you introduce me. I'm good. Thank you. But this was really thoughtful, and thanks.
You're most welcome.
It's good to be on the couch with Abby.
Thank you, and thank you for welcoming us into your home today. So when we decided to do this interview, I said to myself that I would love to cover a lot of things with you, with the caliber of woman that you are. I would say I call you a high value woman.
Wow.
Would you agree?
I've heard of the term high value man, but high value woman.
Oh yeah, that's high value
That's a whole new vocabulary. We'll add it to the list.
We'll add it to the list. Yeah. And actually, before I continue, I would like to give a shout out to Edima for putting this together for us. So thank you, Edima. Mwah. Right, so Jane, I read your book, and actually it's very important for me to note this. Jane is also an author, and this is her amazing book called Be Fearless. Give yourself permission to be you. So I read this book. It took me literally a week to read it, and it really, really warmed my heart. And one of the most interesting things that you kept highlighting is your background. You grew up in the slums of Ajegunle in Lagos, Nigeria. So could you tell me more about that growing up, what it felt like to be growing up in that kind of space?
Okay, I'll probably start a little bit back. So for a long time, I ran away from my background as an adult. I didn't want people to know, I didn't want to tell. But I found out that that's like the key part of my story. So now I embrace it. So like the book says, I was really born to a very loving, kind parents, but they didn't have much. So we lived in the very impoverished part of Lagos, which we call the slums. Anybody that lives in Nigeria probably knows what Ajegunle is. So that's where I grew up. And as a young kid, it's so important to understand that your environment plays a lot of role in who you become, how you think, your thought, your perspective. So even though I know why we lived there, my parents wanted to do the best, and they felt the best was to give you a good education. So they would really insist you go to school, you do your homework. They want you to immerse yourself in education. It was clear that the environment around me was saying the opposite. So in many ways, it influenced who I was in the early ages, So, like what you thought life could be, or what you thought you could be in life, or what you thought, so many things, even in terms of who I wanted to be in life, Like I said in the book, for a long time, I had no clue what I wanted to do in life. And that was the first time I realized that I was triggered, or I'm more impacted or influenced by challenges when I heard my mom talking to a friend of hers, and she was like, oh, my son is studying engineering. Right. In the living room, I could vividly picture it. Right. I was kind of eavesdropping. And she's like, it's so difficult, all the students are failing out, they were this amount, now they're this amount. I didn't know what that was. But I just said, it sounds very tough and difficult, I want to do that. But I didn't have role models, so I didn't have people like, I had uncles and aunties that were nannies, cleaners. Of course, I'm not to put them down or to say those words, jobs are not worth it, but for someone that wanted more, I didn't have like a mirror held up to me what the possibility could be. And I think that's why the environment was so key, and I really wanted to share that, because it's so, even now as an adult, it's so important that when we are talking to kids, when we're talking to young minds, you have to paint a picture. You have to show them what is possible. It's like a blank slate. They don't know. Yeah. So if you don't show, they can't conceive. So expecting them to conceive it is quite unfortunate. If someone is living in that environment and you're expecting they should be able to figure their lives out and know what they could be, how do they know when the guy next door maybe doesn't even work, or the other lady is a prostitute. Like the options they have doesn't tell them that there's so many positive role models out there, and there's more to life than what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it was so important to share that in the book.
In the book. Amazing, Jane. You know, you mentioned something there about education. That was one word that stood out to me. And again, that was one of the things you highlighted in your book. It was more so like a gift from your parents to you. You studied at the University of Nsukka.
Yeah, of Nigeria, Nsukka.
Of Nigeria, Nsukka, and you majored in electronics engineering.
Yeah.
So what was your thought process going into that kind of industry? Did you think you'd break gender bias at that point in time?
Frankly speaking, I was quite naive about the whole gender issue, because when I went there, like I told you, because I was tripped by the fact that, oh, this is a challenging thing I want to do. And of course I got there, I found out, like, for example, in electronics, there were only 10 of us that were girls. There are 100 boys, 10 girls.
Oh, wow.
So, but still it didn't
male dominated.
Yes, but I didn't go with that notion of, oh, this is a male dominated field, so I can't do it. I went with the notion I really want to do well, I want to top this class. And because at that age, I don't think the gender differences are much. So we were all like friends trying to carve out our niche in this class. And it never occurred to me that anybody was either better than me because of their gender. It was more like we all had a level playing field. Let the best man win. And that's how we went for it.
Wow.
So I think it really dawned on me when I got into the workforce that it's not as level, because I was there struggling to see why people would tell me I should be happy for the pay I had because this other guy's got a wife and kids and I'm single, and why am I asking? Like it didn't. I'm like, it's like telling me I shouldn't get an A because what am I going to do with the A? The guy needs the A better. When I thought I deserved the A because I worked hard. And that's how I felt, because I remember, like, disclaimer, there's a course I was scored quite low, and I almost took it personal.
Wow.
Because I was teaching the entire class, and everybody, I was having this discussion class, and after classes lessons, all scored high. And I knew why I didn't score high, because the lecturer had told me there, I'll not call any names. He had insisted that I buy the handout, no matter how smart or good I was, and I'm answering all the questions in class, and raising my hand and context. He really wanted me to buy the handout because what was important to me, but I didn't have the money. I couldn't afford it then. It was like $300.
And because of that,
yes, at that time it was important. Literally, he was telling you 70% of the marks is the handout. He didn't care how smart you were. But I was like, oh, not to worry. By the time I made it in the exams, he wouldn't even know. But he still gave me a D.
Oh,
he told me I was even lucky, could have been an F because I didn't buy the handout. But that said, I was more seeing it as a level playing field because I thought, and for a long time, that's the perspective I had, that what was important was this.
Yeah.
And I really focused a lot on that. So it was the workforce that introduced me to a whole new perspective that in actually reality, that's not how it plays in the workforce.
That's not how it plays. It's a completely different world out there. Actually, which would actually bring me to an article that I read recently where Tim Cook, Apple CEO, I said that one of the challenging, and I'll actually read this out now, a challenge facing the tech sector is the lack of girls choosing to pursue science, tech, engineering and math subjects at school. So, I mean, you telling me that out of the class and the whole class, there was 10 girls and 100 men. What do you think is affecting even, I mean, this is not 2023. I mean, that was decades ago. So what do you think is affecting the STEM, kind of like that in industry at this point in time?
So I do hear what Tim is saying, and I also believe that there are 3 points to it. So we do have the pipeline issue, which is what he's speaking to.
Yeah.
Because even though I thought, oh, this engineering is difficult, I wanted to do it, a lot of people were trying to discourage me. Like men in my life, like my uncles, or even a cousin that was studying engineering was like, no, like in my class, it's the boy thing.
And why do you think that is?
I think that's also stemming from culture. And that's why I said that we do have a pipeline issue. Then we have the cultural perspective where women are expected to go for things that are not too difficult or less engaging. Yeah, because the belief is that just come and fulfill your role as a housewife or as a nurturing mother, So you're not expected to try to do something that is too difficult. And in subtle ways, we continue to do that. You could see that, for example, your kids, maybe let's say two genders, are cracking a homework. And with the guy, you'll be tougher. You insist that you do your homework. You didn't get it right, you study. Or maybe with the girl, you're like, okay, let's just leave her. Don't trouble her too much. Let her catch her. It's okay. It's just a homework. You're sending the subtle message that she could always get away with not giving her extra or her best. So in those ways, it still happens. So that creates the pipeline problem, because then the girls tend to shy, because you tell them it's okay, don't go for it. It's 5 years. Why do you spend 5 years in school? Go do a 4 year and beyond. Don't go for it. It seems to be very competitive or it's tough. Go for something easier. So that creates a pipeline issue, because then you have fewer girls that go for it.
Yeah.
Then you have the issue of the cultural aspect, with also reinforcing those rules among. Then of course the workforce is also a problem.
It's interesting, Jane, that you did mention that the pipeline. For my day job, I'm a recruiter, and one of the things that's so important is having that diversity and inclusion. And one of the things, I worked in tech and now in a pharmaceutical company, and one of the most key things is to make sure that we are hiring more women. So which leads me to another statistics. As of 2022, women make up 28% of the tech industry workforce. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's quite shocking. So do you think that young girls look up to or have access to people like you, role models of people that are already in the industry? Do you think that would help as well?
That would definitely help, and that's where the whole society culture aspect comes in. Back to what I said about, if you give them, the mirror, if you give them the ideas, if they had role models they could see, just like I had that lady say, oh, this thing is tough, and I'm like, oh, I want to be whatever that thing is. If they could see people like me sharing and normalizing it, yes, I'm an engineer, and that's why for a long time I would wear my heels and wear my makeup. I'm like, I don't want people to have the concept of an engineer being a certain profile. It's a normal thing like any other person will want to do. And if we normalize it, we have role models talk about it, make it look okay. You could be a mother with kids and be an engineer. You could be single lady and be an engineer. There's no profile expected, If we do have those kind of role models, people aspire to do it, because they can then see them. So just like when you talk about diversity, sometimes why we don't see it in leadership, very senior leadership, because the people in mid-management or lower tier don't see themselves there. There's nothing like seeing yourselves there. If you see someone that looks like you even feel encouraged to ask them, how did you do it? I would like to be like that.
Representation matters.
Representation matters. People should be at the table. They should have a voice at the table. And then we can see things start to change. So it's so important that we do have role models.
Very. Thanks so much for sharing that. So Jane, I'm going to go to the cultural aspect of things, and I have your book, and honestly I laughed whilst we did this book. Let's talk about peace. You did mention that
I'll be surprised if we didn't talk about peace.
You mentioned that for women it's different, and I saw the dynamics between yourself and this guy who I actually thought was your husband until I read further and I was like, oh, okay, this chapter ended. So you thought you were going to get married to this guy?
Oh yeah, that's if you're dating someone for 6 years, that's like, I felt like I'd met the person, the man of my dreams, and he was really a nice and kind. I think I hope I portrayed that in the book. But one of the things that really happened to lots of women, I think in my case, I think the dynamics, you could call it the power dynamics, became uneven with time. And in so many ways, I think I lost myself in the relationship. And because it wasn't me, I was drowning. Because I have to be able to be, even though codependent, but independent in the relationship, where I feel like I have a voice. And once I think that's probably a contribution. What I found out, I was now losing my voice in the relationship.
But can I say something, Jane? One thing that I found really interesting on this side of the book is the fact that when you guys met, he portrayed that person, and I'm not saying, he changed over the course of time, but when when you met him initially, you thought, oh, okay, this is someone who, respected who you were. You're this strong, independent woman that knew what she wanted for herself. And he was playing along with that until the end, when it came to, moving the relationship to the next stage. And I felt like you discovered that, this might not be the case. The power.
Let me play different dynamics, because I hear you, because I've been thinking about that a lot. So there's an aspect of it being almost a level playing field. As students, we're in a shielded environment, so we were bringing just who we are, nothing more. You weren't richer than me, I wasn't richer. You're like, we're all students trying to make a good grade, trying to graduate, painting our dreams for the future, feeling the fear of uncertainty. But at the core, it's just who we were. There were no layers. I like that. You were okay to be who you are. I didn't care about if you had a car or you didn't have a car, because it didn't matter. We're just students walking around the hostel. I felt one perspective is maybe as he became more independent when it came to wealth, you felt a bit more powerful to assert your wealth. Like, if I'm going to do this, I expect this. So it could be like, hey, I want you to come over for the weekend, I'm going to pay you. You should come over. And that is expected, that, oh my God, I'm your boyfriend, I'm paying, you come over for the weekend in Valentine. And maybe I don't want to come over for the weekend. Maybe I'm feeling, okay, why? Is it because you're the one paying for the transportation? Now I have to say yes. So that could be a part. And you see that also play out in marriages. It's not you tend to see that when you see like college sweethearts then start to evolve in a relationship. Dynamics will change. Maybe one person is now working, and because they're working, the power dynamics changes. They're creating well. But another aspect, I think, is cultural as well. What the society expects that relationship to be like. It starts to put pressure on it, especially when it's now external. So now you're no longer in the shielded environment of a university. This is where your aunties, uncles, everybody else is like, when are you guys getting married? If she's your wife, why don't you do this? Or if you're getting married to her, why aren't you, everybody expects, oh my God, you come to visit and you should be cooking and cleaning. Like this is your, this is the guy you're going to be getting married.
Our wife.
So our wife, that whole concept of our wife. So that dynamics, and maybe even friends will expect that from she's your girl now. Where's your girl? She should be here. So that dynamic starts to play out as well. And the other perspective I also want to paint, so as a woman, it's just so important, because this is one of the lessons I learned from that relationship. To try, no matter what it is, not to lose your voice. I know I say it is not, I don't think it's easy, because I see a lot of friends even suffer from that. Where you try as much as possible to be heard. It is so important, because it's when you're so easily forgotten and you lose yourself, then you can't really accept that this is a relationship where you are in the relationship, or you're just a participant. You're no longer an active participant, you're just passive. So in that case, if things are not going your way, or you think that things are not changing in a way that you can freely be who you are, I think it's a good time to voice it out. I didn't do that well enough. I think I'll just take it all, maybe baffled. I'm like, what is happening? Like, is this how it's going to be playing out? Now you tell me what to do, or you tell me that, oh, you can just come and be a teacher, like, you've forgotten that was,
I saw that part.
What is what? Why, like me, be a teacher? When did that
spend all those years studying engineering
and that's because it's expected that the woman will always be the person to sacrifice in relationship. The woman, because she'll be the nurturing type to bear the kids, she should be willing to pay the price of giving up everything just for it. And maybe see how it plays out. But that wasn't me. That wasn't me with the ambition and the drive and all the things I wanted to do. I didn't see myself in it, but I didn't speak out as well. I was more like baffled, but I didn't speak out. And that's the lesson I learned. So now in my relationship, I try my best. Because sometimes it comes across like, what's happening? I'm like, I'd rather speak out and we have a conversation, a heart-to-heart conversation, and we try to address it, than I lose this very important relationship. Absolutely. So I think it's become, I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying when you do, the other person is in the mood to listen, or the other person is going to be understanding. I think it gives your relationship a fighting chance, that if the person really wants it, then they will shield out the noise. And I say this to a lot of married people. I think marriage should be personal to the couple.
Yeah.
And try your best not to let others define what that relationship should be. So a good example I tell to people is that in the first 5 years of my relationship, I was like the CFO, which is not traditional. Really, like,
what do you mean by CFO?
All the money hits my account.
Okay.
And I decided.
Right.
Because my husband thought, oh, you're so good with finances, so decide where we're going to invest it. So if he takes his own upkeep, like, we put the money together, I'm like, okay, I think we're saving for the house, we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're going to pay I'm running like the CFO, we got the whole track and I'm doing it.
But not to worry, sorry to interject there, Jane. I am going to come back to your husband. The real Mr. Egherton Idehen. We're coming back to that for sure. But I wanted to quickly talk about when you left that relationship. Yeah. Because the lesson here basically for anyone watching is you need to have your voice heard. And if you feel like that relationship is not serving you, it is okay to walk out. And it was when you walked out, it was after you left the relationship that you decided to take on your masters. Tell me more about that.
So of course it's not easy leaving. I'm not saying that breaking up with someone is easy.
Yes.
Because you're invested, you love the
of
person.
Course.
This is 6 years of your life. But I think I then decided to go on that track where I shouldn't settle for anything less. I should go all out. I shouldn't be scared. I think that's one of the things I learned. Is that, Jake, what do you really want? Then go for it.
Yeah.
You have a blank canvas. Don't be scared. Don't try to please anyone or please something. Just be what you really want to be. And I told him, I said, what I really wanted. And this is what I did tell him when I was in second year, that I wanted to do a master's at MIT. I'm like, I want to do a master's. I want to go to MIT. Then let's do it.
Yeah.
And everybody around me thought, wow, this girl has come with ambitious dreams. Think about it, living in Jaguar. Everybody's telling you, so what do you want to do next? Now you graduate. I want to study. I'm going to go do masters in MIT. MIT, do you know how much the school fees is? Yeah, but so I started that journey. But I think that's one of the things I've learned.
Yeah.
And you see that play out a lot in my life, where we take this crazy risk of what do you really want to do. If you're not scared about anything, anyone, whatsoever, what do you really want to do?
So tell us more about that. You going to MIT, you going to Warwick.
So I didn't go to MIT, but I did apply twice. I think they were tired. They told me you've got to go do a master's somewhere, then you come back. But it opened the doors to okay, this is what I want to do. I really want to do a master's. But I didn't go to MIT. I ended up going to Warwick Business School in Coventry. Because then I started working in the midst of all this, and I was now working. So I was, you kind of, you get to review your choices again. We look at your plans and your dreams and your goals. And I told myself, okay, at this phase in my career, what would really pay me is it to go to MIT and do a master's degree in science, or to do a management course, because already 4 years working. I tried to go do an MBA, because at that phase also I'd made a switch from technical to sales. Yeah. So I felt the MBA would serve me better.
So Jane, tell me about this time and your book again. I keep making references to your book.
It's okay.
But this part for me was quite profound. Was a point in time where you were working for this organization and you've been there for a good few years, and you were passed on for promotion yet again. And this time you actually voiced out your concerns to your manager, to your boss, and they asked you to speak to the HR VP. So you spoke to the HR VP, this American lady, and she said to you, she said very bluntly, very direct, and said, look, when you're seeking for this kind of managerial positions, you're female, you're black, you have kids, married, everything is just working against you. Tell me more about that conversation, how that conversation went.
Remember her, that lady? She's wearing a white t-shirt. When I stepped in, I printed my CV just to have it on record that whatever you're looking for. And when she did tell me that, because we're having a conversation like we're having, and she told me that, I can see it's been all lateral moves. Yeah. What you're looking for from this stage forward is 99% your network, who you know, and 1% talent. But each time you walk into the room, the fact that you're all this is going to work against you. Nobody had been that direct with me, ever. Wow. But I think she was voicing out a lot of people. And that's what we call unconscious bias. Yeah. Because even when people do this, they don't even know they're doing it. But in their heads, subconsciously, they are profiling you and judging you against the framework they know. And that's what was happening. So I don't think it has ended, to be frank. I think we're educating people now so we can have less of that. Because as a human, even I could have a tendency to be unconsciously biased about other things. So coming from that position where it's been only males that have run that kind of roles in the organization for a while, and most of them have been Caucasian. Then this is some black woman with kids. Like she's coming with all this and she's saying, yeah, I want to go to another country and I want to run that team. And I can do it. And I think for many people, like, who are you? But subconsciously they were like, no, how can she do it? She couldn't even leave her husband and kids. And she's black, you know. How would how would the clients think that there's all kinds of things running in their head, and because of those things they would feel like no.
So tell me, how did you navigate your way around those obstacles?
So I think that's why it's so important to have sponsors. I don't think even when she told me this, I was so upset. Like I was really, really upset. I resigned. I like went to another company. I'm like, okay, if you think that I'm not good enough because of all this, bye. So I went to another company. Right. But of course, after about 2 years, they came looking for me and they brought me back.
Oh wow!
Chased me for like 9 months and brought me back. But I think that's
on your own terms.
Yes. So the difference was I was now a bit more. I felt more empowered because I'm like, if you want me back, these are my terms. Like I want this, and after a year, if you can't give me this, I'm out. I didn't feel scared anymore. Like, I have nothing to lose. What I'll leave I left the first time. But what I realized in the second time, what changed was one, you speak up, and I tell people you really speak up. Yeah. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't think I'm working really hard. Everybody should notice me. Like I'm really a hardworking woman here. So I remember speaking to someone, and I keep putting out there, like, hey, this is really what I want to do going next. First discussion we have with my boss, like we were having that chat, I'm like, this is where I'm headed. Yeah. If you can't give it to me in a year, I'll be out. Yeah. I'll go any other place, but I won't stay. I won't waste my time. So that was one, to speak out. And I think number two, sponsors are really key. So it's in that speaking out. Also, one of my frustrations, I was sitting at one dinner table, and I'm like, I don't get it. You know, like this company all the time talking about diversification. We want 33% of leadership to be females by 20, whatever. Yeah. But look at your leadership. Because I was just looking at the leadership, and I was astonished. And I'm like, and nobody's doing anything about it. You have this nice vision and goal, but there's no action to back it up. And I'm like, what? You're asking where the women? Look at the women. What's happening? Why can't you find a way? But I didn't know that it kind of is stuck with the guy. Because the next thing he told me, there was a role I was applying for at that time, which everybody had told me wasn't available. And he called me and said, if you want that role, go talk to that guy. Yeah. And I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, go talk to him. Talk to him about your skills, what you can do. I'm like, why should I be selling myself to someone? When you're already in the job. Yes, because I didn't understand some of this dynamic. She's like, no, just trust me. Go. Like you're having a chat, just let that guy know, like, hey, this is my big passion, this is what I want to do next, this is what I'm good at. So sponsors are key because sponsors would use their own power. You can call it, political power, whatever, but influential power in the organization to get you a seat at the table. Now, a mentor wouldn't normally do that. A mentor would support you with their experiences. They share their skill sets, use their experiences to guide your journey. But it's different from using your own power in an organization to broker opportunities for someone. That's an entirely different ballgame. Yeah. And that's where sponsors come in. And that's what that guy was doing. Behind the scene, I didn't know what was going on, but he was creating scenarios and putting me there, but I didn't get it. It just felt like this is becoming very uncomfortable. They're making me speak to this person. Why am I speaking to all these people and having to tell them about how good I am? I'm like, as a woman, it's not so natural because women are used to receive it. If a guy wants to date you, he comes to you, asks you out. It used to be asked. So on the receiving side,
we have to wait and sit.
It's like you want someone to come and say, I want to marry you. You don't go telling the guy, hey, it's same to you. But now I think it's a different book. So it was a bit weird the first few years. I felt a bit dirty. I'm like, I'm going to talk to people and tell them how great Jane is. But I realized that that's what was required because in the decision making room, nobody knew Jane. So whenever Jane's name came up, they all shut it down. And what that guy was trying to do was get them to know who Jane is. So when Jane's name comes back on the table, they're like, hey, maybe we should give her a chance. It's not so bad. I had a chat with her. That girl looks like, or that lady looks like, So that's what he was trying to do. While he was also using his power and his influence to create opportunities for me to be in places where I can really be seen. He would literally call me up on the stage to come and talk about something.
Wow.
And I'd be like, I just want to be at the back of the room. Why are you calling me up on the stage? You know? So sponsors are important.
Yeah.
Mentors help us play a role, but I think for this particular situation, you can be overly qualified if nobody gives you a seat at the table or even helps you point you to the right direction. You might not know. You just go around in circles.
Wow. So basically what I'm hearing you say is that this guy gave you the opportunity to be a ready right now woman.
He used his own influence to create that opportunity. And I think that's where we need, when we talk about diversity, that's where what is missing.
Yeah.
We have all these big plans in organization, but we need to get sponsors that would use their own, because they know in those rooms what is required. They know what that talent needs to do, on how the talent needs to be presented. The talent doesn't know that.
Yeah.
It's only a sponsor that can create that opportunity and make that happen. Speak to that person, see what, I want you to talk to Jane. Yeah. Or I want you to let Jane run this project. Jane doesn't probably know that that is what is required for that next step.
Yeah. So according to Women in Tech Network, it says that it would take about 133 years to close the economic gender gap.
Because women are still paid less.
And I think that's just horrible.
Whatever, it was still several, for some stats in the US, I think it's 80 cents to the dollar.
Yeah.
But for even women of color, it's probably less. And for even Africans or immigrants, it's probably less than that. Because they're negotiating from a disadvantaged place. Most times they're not even fully aware what the pay scale is, because most companies are not so transparent with their pay scale.
No, they're not. Right. So, Jane, tell me, we're going to talk about marriage.
Oh, yes.
Partnership. I think you coined the word marriage more so as partnership, and I absolutely love that. And I love the story you shared about when you had to move. Of course, you got the promotion at work and you had to move to Ghana. And then your husband, how you were a bit scared at first. So maybe not scared, but I don't know what the words you use.
Very anxious.
Very anxious.
Concerned.
But then, this man agreed. Go ahead. And then there was also a time when he wanted to go for his master's. And I just thought that was so interesting and so beautiful how you supported each other. Tell me more about your husband. Egherton Idehen.
That's the lovely part of the story I like to share. But I want to tie it to something Michelle said, because I listened to Michelle Obama saying something similar about, in a marriage or in a partnership, it's not always 50-50.
Yeah.
I think what's important that you're doing with someone that really respects you and you respect, and you guys are going at it. So it's good to see that, because for my husband, why I say it's a partnership, and I think that's where most women feel like they kind of lost it, is when you feel you're always on the giving side, and you're not getting, the relationship is actually defined by one person. So you feel like you're not bringing anything, or you're not being seen. When is the partnership is give and take? So sometimes, I'm the one that's delivering 70, but sometimes you're the one delivering. So there's a partnership of having to support everybody's dream. It doesn't mean that we can all do it at the same time. Now the case of going to Ghana, because culturally people thought that was just, people around me thought, you can't just leave your husband. And I couldn't even tell him for 2 weeks. I just was, oh my God, how am I going to tell my husband, I got this role, but that's going to be in another country? That would be crazy, because he knew I interviewed it for a country which we all lived in. But I was being offered, if you want to take it, you want to go to another country, that's where we have it available. And I'm like, what's going to happen? Like our kids, I couldn't, but he could tell. When people really live with you, they know. It's like everybody's walking we're all walking on eggshells around you. What's going on? And I told him, and not like he was surprised, but it was a relief to see him say, hey, what's important is that I love you and I want you to be happy. This is something you always wanted. Let's go do it. We'll make it work. And it's always been the same. Now I'm in Ireland with the kids, or half the kids, because my daughter is in, my son is somewhere. My husband is in Nigeria, and now he has to shuttle. But like you said, there was a time he had to do his master's. So we were holding it down, and he was doing his master's in Singapore. And that's why it's a partnership, because there's always a give and take. But it shouldn't be that it's only one person that's always giving. most times women are always on the, side where they're the ones kind of on the shorter end of the stick. So for a partnership, the other person has to be considered. And I think that's why I was trying to coin marriage as a partnership. So people, because you see a lot of women born out by the time they get to their 40s, because they felt they've given so much. They don't even know who they are or what's their impact, what have they contributed beyond being a mother. Not like being a mother is bad, but maybe they wanted more out of life.
And it's okay to want more out of life.
And that's what we're saying, that it's okay to be a mom, be a career person, be a mom, be an entrepreneur, be a mom, be an artist. It's okay to take all these other aspects of your life that truly make you who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's this saying that you can have it all. You can have it all. Maybe not all at the same time.
Maybe not all at the same time,
but you can have it all.
But that's why it's important that the partner you take on the journey with you. Because if it's someone that really believes in you and truly respects you, then they would support you on that journey. That's why it's so key.
So tell me, he has a chapter at the end of this book.
Yes.
Why did you, so obviously I would imagine you have told him, yes, I need you to write a chapter in this book.
No,
basically,
who came, I think it was my editor that came with the idea. The book was written from my voice, my viewpoint. And she's like, you guys are so, like, you're really like a good partner.
Yeah.
You show a good partnership with this whole thing. Why don't you also let him share his viewpoint? And I did that because I wanted people to see what the partnership really looks like. Or what I believe is a partnership. A partner that supports you doesn't mean he always agrees with all your ideas. Don't get it, because you could tell even in his chapter, some of my viewpoints, like, no, that one she said, I don't agree with that. That's not my take on that. I believe that women shouldn't go around, he has his own ideas. But that's different from being a supportive partner. Everybody defines themselves in a relationship. So when the editor mentioned, I'm like, well, that's true, it's true. Maybe we should hear from a man's viewpoint. And that's how he got to write that chapter and share his own viewpoints. But I thought it was most people find it, most men that read the book love it. They find it very authentic because, and it's also good for singles to see what a partnership looks like. A partner is someone that supports you, loves you. Doesn't necessarily mean that you guys all have the same viewpoints on for everything in life. We still have areas where we agree to disagree, and it's okay. Like, that's your view, this is my view. We just agree to disagree.
Yes. Great, love it. Tell me about motherhood. You have a chapter here, maybe not a chapter, but loving Sarah. Loving Sarah. Sarah is your daughter's name. And you mentioned how, I think it was when she was about 3 years old, and you did try your best to, I mean, you were always traveling, Jane, but you had a live-in nanny, and I think Sarah went in the middle of the night crying to the nanny and not yourself. And I can only imagine at that point in time where you'd feel like, oh, she chose the nanny over me. Tell me about how you walked your way with developing your relationship with your daughter.
And I think that's where mentors come in handy, but I'll tell you why I believe mentors are handy. Motherhood is something you're never given a manual for. Like, nobody wakes up and say, hey, there's the manual on how to be a good mother. You have to go figure it out, research, and So I was in that situation where I was trying to build this career, and I was still a mom. I love my kids. Like, I really love my daughter, but I found that maybe some personality with my son is easier because of our personality. It was easier in the way we confront issues to engage. My daughter, it wasn't fully the same. Maybe I didn't really understand it at that point. So I was there traveling up and down the whole world. I would show up. My daughter would just say hi and go and stay with the nanny. She'll sleep with the nanny. If she's having nightmares, the nanny. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm going to be competing with this nanny. So my first reaction or my instinct was, I'm going to sack this nanny.
Oh, wow.
She's leaving. I can't be fighting with my daughter with the nanny.
Wow.
I remember telling my mentor that, because I had this mentor, I love her because she had gone through a similar career journey, traveled a lot with the kids. And so we're talking about whole motherhood, career. And I was telling her, I was like, this is my current challenge. Like, my daughter is closer to the nanny than me. She literally sleeps with the nanny, just says hi and go and hang out. Like, she doesn't want to hang out with me, And I remember after sharing all this challenge, I was expecting the normal reaction, which is what I already had my plan for. She just sacked the nanny. She said, no. Just the way you work hard to win over a client, you're very good at that. she applied the same skills and go back to the drawing board and try and win over your daughter. That was one of the toughest jobs because I wanted the easy way out. And someone said, no, you don't. You have to make her naturally choose you by listening, being present. And that started a whole different journey for me because then I started thinking, so what do I do? How can I connect with Sarah better? Who is Sarah? Why is she like that? You know, try to understand her personality. So reading books, talking to people, and really paying attention and just changing basic things like weekends, which I still do now. Nothing is taken away. Not on the weekend, I'm cycling, I'm doing like no dinner dates, no meetings, no cycling, just whatever the kids want to do. That's giving them my time. So weekends became family time. And even though when I come back from work on a normal day, I want to go back to my laptop and, finish up all the things. Now I come back, I'm like, okay, Sarah, well, how was your day? We chat, I want to make her hair. Just looking for ways to connect. Even I didn't do a good job, I can tell whatever. But the fact that she appreciated that I could see her. So I think for me, it's just to put it out there that motherhood is also a journey. Doesn't mean it's going to come naturally. You can figure out all your kids. Yeah. You still have to put some effort there.
Absolutely, love that. So tell me, you're in Ireland now, Dublin, Ireland. So tell me, how many countries have you lived in, Jane?
Not much. I've gone around, but to live in a home, I think it will be probably three. 3 countries. Other ones I'll just go there temporary and maybe do some work.
So in Ghana?
So I've lived in Ghana, I've lived in Nigeria, now I'm living in Ireland.
Now you're living in Ireland. Yeah. You said something in your book. There's a chapter that actually says, at the top, it's lonely.
Yes.
Why did you say that?
We have this whole big idea of what the top will look like. You're going to be there, all the problems will be solved. Because now you have all the, aesthetic, you have control, power, influence, whatever, money, whatever you're aspiring to, accolade, whatever you're aspiring to. But I realized that the more you get there, there are fewer people that can really look you straight in the face and be frank and give you feedback.
Right.
Most people around you, either because they are worried about, how it will affect like power dynamics or affect their relationship, you probably have to go around seeking it. Wow. So think about if you're paying 90% of the staff around you, how are they going to be telling you, I think you didn't get this one right. It takes a lot of guts from people. You might have to ask them for people. Say, how do you think I managed the situation? Do you guys think that was a good way? So I found out the more I did that, it was tougher because you're also having a busy lifestyle. If you're not investing in creating a support system, like relationships with people that can really have those conversations with you. Call it mentors, coach, or just people like accountability partner. If you don't make an effort to do that, you might be going down the wrong road and nobody's going down the wrong road and no one's going to tell you.
Because you know what? Ultimately, feedback is a gift. Feedback
is a gift.
It really is a gift, isn't it?
And it's something I now understand differently. Because even on my job, it's how you feel like I've done this thing for so many years, I'm so good at it. Yeah. Doesn't mean you're perfect. If you can give allowance and room for people to be comfortable enough to tell you and share when they feel things aren't going right, or when they think things could be better, that's the best gift they can give you to grow as a leader. And sometimes it doesn't come naturally. It could be cultural context. So some cultures do not allow you to speak to your elders in a certain manner or to say no to their request. And so people will not say no to you, even though when it's a crazy request. So you have to be able to create that room for them to feel safe, emotionally safe enough to tell you and share. Yeah. So that's why I feel like it's lonely there, because especially if you're someone that wants to grow, you have to make the effort. And great leaders have been people that are very self-aware. You could probably read body language and say, hey, what are you not telling me? Come tell me. What did I say that didn't make sense? I'd like to hear from you. What do you think we could do to make it better? If you don't do that, it's going to be lonely. You just be going on that road and you wouldn't get it.
Wow, that's profound. Michelle Obama said something in her new book. She spoke about how when she was going for her book tours, how she still has a self-doubt. and there was a time that she needed her husband to, comfort her and, sort of speak words into her to give her that push. Do you have those moments of imposter syndrome?
All the time. It definitely doesn't technically go.
Because sometimes you think some people have
people
their
see you
stuff
like you're
together.
so confident.
Exactly.
You have it all together for all these things. But I think it's those that are closest to you and that really know who you are. And so I still have the moment I'm like, oh my God, what do you think? I've really been thinking about this thing I'm going to do. Like, I'm so worried, I'm so scared. Am I going to do it? It's like, it is you. What are you talking about? You're this. So I think it's really good to have people affirm you. In the book, I share that they're like the mirrors. They're the people that hold up the mirror to your face. And they can tell you, it could be when you're low, when you actually need to hear the hard truth.
Yeah.
And I do get that a lot. And of recent, even just, you can see like with what is happening in the tech sector, it's been really a tough period in the tech sector. The layoffs, it could be scary. And you would come home because in the office you're strong for everybody around you. You have to be the powerful, strong leader which you're proclaiming to you. But you go home and you're shattered. You really, really feel sometimes low. And it takes your support system, those close to you that can look at you and say, hey, cut yourself some slack, maybe take a break. Accept that this is actually draining your energy, or accept that you do need a mental break. This is tough, or it's traumatic. And it will happen. I think it's just realizing that you're human. And I think it also creates a stronger relationship because then you can be vulnerable with each other to say, hey, I'm feeling this way because of this. I can't go to work and have people around me all worried, anxious, not sleeping. It doesn't add up for me, So it doesn't go away.
Right. Okay. So for someone who's been in the tech industry for about 2 decades now, would you be able to tell us what to predict in 2023? With what's going to happen in the tech world, with all the layoffs? I mean, I can actually say we can now confirm and say that all the FANG companies have laid people off.
All of them, and nobody saw that coming.
No one saw it coming.
No, so if we're even predicting in 2022, we didn't see that coming.
No.
So I think that's one of the outcome of the recession or the proposed
but
recession.
But even in a recession.
Not yet. So technically, we're saying, officially, we're saying the U.S. will hit a recession, but it looks like the fans are all preparing for the recession even before the recession. But I think what is clear is if you look at the data, because I was reading an interesting article by one of the tech minds I so admire. If you go 60 years down the line, each time we've had a change, development, shift in platforms, followed by some kind of a recession, or increase in interest rates. So where startups or companies don't have access to easy money, zero interest rate funds, that has always created a whole new level of creativity and a whole new level of companies, innovations, ideas. So if you go back to how we moved from transistors to silicon chips, or how we got into mobile computers, even the internet web, in the early 20s, that's when all the Apples and the Googles all came. When we had that bust in 2000, in the late 90s, and in 2000, everybody was struggling. It all created a whole new era because then the internet was trying to evolve of all the Apples and the Googles and all those companies that are emerging. So what is clear is that 2023 could be one of those shifts for us because one, it's going to be tough for tech companies. They have been on hyper growth for about 10 years or more, growing at ridiculous pace. And now with a recession, the forecast is that they won't grow. They're already showing that they wouldn't grow as fast as they used to grow. They don't have access to easy money, zero interest rate funds as they used to. And they're all slowing back. They're laying off, reducing the cost so that they can make it through whatever the recession. So that means there's no easy funds. Interest rates has gone up. So startups don't have easy funds. So that means everybody's trying to be resourceful, which is to do more with less. Absolutely. Because you don't have cheap or easy money. So that's one. But two, because technology is probably creating another shift. When have people been this excited about technology? Don't you have a chat GPT, AI all over the place? Everybody's talking about
AI.
it. Everybody thinking how they're going to infuse it into what they do.
Yeah.
Search engine wants to infuse it. Every tech app, SaaS company, even so. I think the two is going to create some kind of opportunity down the line in terms of how we work. Opportunities that will come from startups by the end of 2023. Because I think this first half is everybody trying to clean their bags and everybody's laying off, reducing costs. I think the second half, probably people will start to get back to the table with, so what next? You know, if you have limited resources and you have this technological shift, what can you do with that? And we start to be creative. I think that's what AI will do. Because what will happen, we see what happened in the workforce. You know, we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, or we talk about the future of work, is that AI or technology is taking out routine tasks from what we do. Because the AI can do it. Why do you need someone to pick that call on a call center? When you can say, good morning, this is whatever airlines, how may I help you? Do you want to make a reservation? You know, where do you want, it can do all that routine tasks. So maybe having a PA to plan your trip and figure out where's the cheapest flight. You know, with AI, you just tell ChatGPT, find me the best restaurant in Dublin for sushi open between 9 a.m. and it will tell you, so those types of tasks or those types of roles will start to be redundant. And it's requiring that humans be more innovative and creative. Yeah. This is what the technology cannot do. It can do any cognitive routine task. And it can learn. So that's where it's different from how we've seen technology in the past. Because of the adaptive learning, the more you feed it data, the more it learns. Yeah. Like a human being will learn. So the more it's collecting more data, it's figuring out and learning from the data. So I think what we're going to see is that AI will probably create that kind of disruption. It's a lot of buzz. We don't know even how far it will go, but it will be forcing humans to leave the routine tasks or people to leave that routine. Yeah. Any cognitive routine tasks will go off. And the fact that we now have access to resources means that most of the big techs, that slow growth means they'll start trying to be more efficient to reduce cost and waste in the organization where there are overlaps. Because we've grown this massive organizations, spending so much money with so much redundancy.
All the free lunch.
Free lunches, the free gyms, some of these extras will go. Yeah. And they might be returned to the core. Right. How can we make interesting products that will wow people, which is what they did in the beginning. And I think that's where the technology would help create that shift. So you start thinking, how can we infuse AR, VR into things that we do? And maybe change the way we use some of this software or apps or existing technology. And that's going to create a whole new kind of job and a whole new set of companies. Maybe even new business models as well.
So what I'm hearing you say is basically that we're going through a shift right now.
It is a shift.
It's a shift. Well, we're hoping for the best.
I think
hoping for the best.
For me, it's a cycle. So with every cycle, there'll be losers and winners.
True.
You think about in manufacturing, when the people started automating factories, of course, people must have worried, or the people in the factories will lose their job. Yeah. But if they learned how to manage the machines, then their roles changed. Yeah. So it's learning to adapt and move, and that's why I say what is important for people in this whole phase or in whatever shift we're going through is to learn, relearn, unlearn.
Love it.
So you have to unlearn things, you have to relearn things, you have to learn new things. Absolutely. We have to be open to doing that, and that's when we can accept or take in the new, whatever the new learnings or new technology produces, and we can adapt for the future.
Great. Absolutely love it. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Couch with Abby Jane. Thank you so much for sharing all those amazing nuggets. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our viewers? Last, sort of like any tips, anything,
So, I think one thing I want to say thank you. I've had an interesting conversation with you. To think that we just met the first time, that we've invested and just chit-chatting about the sector and everything. So really thank you for the work you do. I think it's amazing that people get to hear this, because sometimes that's what they need. Like I told you about listening to the old episode, and I was inspired. Like I really got a lot of energy listening to it. So to your viewers, I would say if you haven't liked, followed, on the couch with Abby, I think you should do that because there's so much you could learn. You'll be shocked how you can help your own journey as well by just listening to others. So make sure you click the like button or the follow button, and watch out for more tips. And I'll say keep doing what you're doing.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you.